In this lecture, we're going to add the final piece to our Parabola flow, exporting our data to our Airtable database. Now, we could have used Google Sheets as a database, but I thought it would be fun to switch things up and introduce you to Airtable. It's an incredible tool packed with loads of helpful features. So let's dive into exporting our data. First things first, you'll want to search for Airtable in the application's search bar. Once you've searched for it, you'll then want to select Send to Airtable and drag it out onto the end of our flow. And make sure that, of course, it's connected to the previous function. After adding the function, we can then open it up and we can begin to configure it as we need. Now, before doing anything, what we must do is begin by clicking Authorize Airtable. This step is crucial because without authorization, Parabola and Airtable can't connect. So once you've clicked the initial authorization and authorized the connection, Parabola will then prompt you to enter your API key. And this key is specific to your Airtable account. So let me explain how you can find it. So what you'll want to do is click Look up Airtable API key. And once you've done that, an Airtable tab will open and that will go directly into your Airtable account. Now, providing, of course, you are logged into Airtable already. And once you're in your Airtable account, you should then see a button which says Developer Hub or something like Head to Developer Hub. And you'll want to click on that. And from there, you'll see your API key, which you can copy and then come back to Airtable and paste it in as I've done, and then click Authorize to authorize that connection between Parabola and Airtable. And as long as you've used the correct API key, both your accounts should now be connected, so we can start working with Airtable inside of Parabola. So let's continue setting things up with Airtable now. So first things first, let's open the first drop-down menu. And here you'll see several options for interacting with Airtable. For our project, you'll want to make sure that Create Records is selected. We're choosing this option because we want to add data to our Airtable. Next, pick the base. That is the database that you want to work with. And ours is called Stock Sentiment. So you'll want to make sure you go ahead and select that. And since we only have one table inside our database, it's chosen as default, and that was titled Alphabet. Now we're ready to map the data from Parabola to our Airtable database. So moving down to the fields where we can map data, under the Airtable header, what you'll see are several items, and these correspond to the columns in our database. So we're going to start with the first one, which is title, and then we're going to click the adjacent drop down, so the one under Parabola, and then we're going to select the data that we want to map to that column. So for this example, we're going to map the title from Parabola to Airtable. And of course, they're both called Airtable because we named it in the Parabola title and we named it in Airtable title. You could of course name it something different if that causes some confusion for you. But that is how we map data from Parabola to Airtable. And now we can go ahead and do that for the rest of the columns. So follow along with me as we do that. So we're going to map another field. This time, the description column in Airtable, we're going to match the description column in Parabola. Next, we have author, and we're going to do that the same here. So the author data in Parabola will be mapped to the column in Airtable. Next up, we have publication. Again, we're going to map publication to this. Then we have URL, and then we're going to find the URL data and map that. And finally, we have sentiment, and then we'll map the sentiment data to its appropriate column. Now, to check that everything is set up correctly, what you can do is click Show Updated Results. And within moments, we can see that everything looks perfect. The data is presented as we wanted. However, this doesn't mean that the data has been sent to Airtable yet. We need to do one more thing for that to happen. So let's click off this function because it's set up and head back to our canvas. So let's now wrap up this part of the project. And what we'll want to do is click in the top right, and it should either say Update Live or Run Flow. So you'll want to click that. And then once you're taken to the next page, your flow should automatically run. And if it doesn't, you'll want to click Run Flow Now and then Run Now. You'll then see the process start. And once it's done, the data will be sent to Airtable. And the duration of this time depends on the size of the table, so the amount of data that you have. But it shouldn't take too long. Now, once the process has finished, what we can do is switch over to our database in Airtable to see what it looks like. And there, we'll see the data. Now, you might be wondering why there are 4 rows of data when going through this lecture there was 1 row. So before running this flow, I actually went through and refreshed the data from the previous day, and we managed to get more news articles because I wanted to show you exactly what it looks like when there are more articles or more data points that you're running the sentiment on. And again, everything else is exactly the same. Nothing changes about how we structured the project. Whether you're running it on 100 lines of data, 1,000, or 1 as we did initially, and now we have 4. And you can see that even though we gave 1 example initially, which was TechCrunch, it has now gone through the publications and done the same for all of the others, and we just have the publication name. But that's it for this lecture. We have now successfully completed the project. I invite you to join me in the next lecture where we'll discuss Parabola a little bit more, and I'll give you a bird's eye view of our entire project. And after that, I've prepared an optional assignment for you to tackle. We'll then wrap up this section with a conclusion lecture. I hope you enjoyed this lecture and project, and I hope it inspires you to think of other ways to apply these techniques, both personally and professionally.